A boat full of exiles is making its way through a terrible storm. Its destination is Tsushima Island. The exiles on the boat are tied with ropes, scared for their life as the storm grows stronger and more savage. One of them was once a rich man, but now is just an unimportant prisoner. He sits beside a man called Kuchi Jinzaburo, a former retainer of the Kamakura shogunate. While the other exiles scream for their lives, Kuchi sits in silence. The prisoners start to beg the guards to untie them so they can better survive the storm. After a moment, the guards decide to help the poor exiles. They release their hands and feet, but the guards make a terrible mistake. The exiles who were begging for their lives now start attacking them. They punch, slash, and kill the guards. This was their opportunity to take over the boat, and so they did just that. After most of the guards have been killed, one of the exiles realizes that the boat is too heavy, so he starts throwing people overboard into the ruthless sea. The former rich man begs Kuchi to save him, so he unties him. At that moment, they're attacked by the prisoners. Kuchi has gotten his hands on a sword and he starts slashing the prisoners. He moves like the wind, and after several slashes of the sword, all the crazy exiles are dead. Several of the remaining prisoners look in awe. A giant pirate called Anatake Maru is unimpressed by Kuchi and wants to fight him, but now is not the time. Kuchi releases him, and with his great strength, Anatake Maru raises the mast, and together with the rest of the exiles, they manage to sail the boat towards Tsushima Island. The next day, the sun rises, and the sea is quiet. The surviving prisoners reach the island. They see villagers and workers on the beach. A regal boat approaches them, and they receive a warm welcome from Princess Teruhi. They're instructed to dock and to come celebrate their arrival. Kuchi is suspicious. Night arrives, and the exiles are allowed to eat and drink whatever they want. They still don't quite understand what's happening. Then, the princess arrives, and Kuchi's suspicions are proven correct. The exiles were allowed safe passage and shelter because they needed to fight an incoming invasion from the Mongols. They're asked to defend the entire island from the invaders. The princess admits that this is the reason they were brought here. During the night, masked warriors attack the camp. The prisoners are able to free themselves. While the attack is happening, the princess is kidnapped. Kuchi and Anatake Maru get free as well and start to kill the attackers. One by one, all the masked attackers are defeated and the princess is rescued. After the battle, Teruhi is saddened by all the killing and war. She's afraid for the future. She's joined by Kuchi and they talk. Teruhi promises Kuchi a great reward if he helps her. He agrees, and on the next day, Mongol ships are seen heading to Tsushima Island. Kuchi Jinzaburo is invited to a strategy meeting with various leaders as well as the Lord of Tsushima himself, Sou Sukekuni. They have all convinced themselves that the Mongols won't attack Tsushima and they would just pass by the island. As the meeting goes on, Kuchi realizes that these people have no idea what's coming and are not ready at all. He voices his concerns but is banished from the meeting because he's only an exile. Later in the day, he meets a strange man dressed like a monk. He's called Shoni Kagasuke, and he needs Kuchi to defend the island for 7 days until he can get reinforcements. As a parting gift, he gives Kuchi a sword from the legendary Minamoto no Yoshitsune. As the morning arrives, so does the Mongol fleet. They land at Sasu Bay, and Lord Sukekuni and his son Yumajiro ride to meet them in battle. He orders Jinzaburo to stay behind and protect the princess. The battle begins with Sukekuni and his soldiers surviving a barrage of arrows from the party of Mongols. They manage to push them back to shore when they find an entire village slaughtered. The Lord is in shock. At that moment, his force of hundreds of soldiers and horses is destroyed by explosives from the Mongol ships. He's gravely injured but tries to retreat with some surviving soldiers and his son, but the Mongols catch up to them and kill them with spears. On their run to safety, the surviving Tsushima soldiers are confronted by Kuchi Jinzaburo, who has now donned a Tsushima armor. He yells at them to stop running and fight the Mongol forces. At first, the soldiers don't want to follow orders from an exile, but they're inspired when they see Kuchi and other exiles attack and defeat the Mongol soldiers. The Tsushima soldiers follow Kuchi into battle. Hitari, Shiraishi, Kazuhisa, and Suburo all help in the attack, and after a while, the Mongol forces are pushed back. In a rage, Kuchi wants to keep attacking. The Tsushima soldiers, led by Kuchi, managed to break into a Mongol camp, and after killing a general, they return back with the head of Lord Sukekuni and his son. Princess Tsuruhi tries to keep a brave face, but after seeing the heads of her father and brother, she breaks down in tears. Kuchi, with the remaining soldiers, as well as a commander named Abiru, talk about the battle and further plans. The soldiers are haunted by the massacre they saw in the village. In a vulnerable moment, Kuchi reveals that his wife and daughter both died in a plague while he was in battle. Later, the princess tries to convince the villagers of Sasu to leave the valley as it's about to be attacked. Some of them don't want to leave, but Jinzaburo has a plan. He wants to attack the Mongol camps during the night, and he needs a couple of the Sasu villagers to help with that attack. The princess is furious because Kuchi is willing to endanger the villagers and the tired soldiers. A few villagers agree to aid in their stealth attack. Anatake Maru is very happy with the plan and ready for battle. The plan is to attack when the moon is at its highest point. In the meantime, Jinzaburo decides to take a nap to rest up a bit for the upcoming battle. The princess is by his side while he sleeps. She's angry at him for being reckless and wanting to go to battle. She approaches his sleeping body and pulls out a knife. For an instant, she thinks it would be wise to kill him before he does something horrible. But she decides not to. For a moment, she looks at him before leaning in for a kiss. Kuchi awakens, and it's time for the attack to begin. The soldiers, as well as the villagers, have taken up arms and made their armor lighter so they can move more stealthily. Jinzaburo and his forces move into position. The raid slowly starts with them approaching the Mongol forces, but just before the attack, they're betrayed by two Sasu villagers. In a moment of pure villainy, the villager Ginshichi comes up from behind Jinzaburo and tries to stab him. But before he can kill him, Princess Tsuruhi intervenes, saving Jinzaburo's life, but getting injured in the process. In a moment of rage, Jinzaburo kills Ginshichi and tends to the princess. She's badly wounded, so he sends her back to the capital. Because of the villagers' betrayal, the Mongol forces are now aware of the attack. Jinzaburo decides to attack anyway. Anatake Maru goes ballistic and destroys several soldiers in their way, totally breaking the Mongol defenses. Meanwhile, the Goryeo commander Kim Song-gyong and the Mongol vice marshal Lu Fuheng are unimpressed with the attack. They think the Tsushima forces are small and weak. Jinzaburo and his forces start to burn village huts to scare their enemies. Also, the attack is proving really successful with the Tsushima soldiers killing many Mongol warriors. After a while, Jinzaburo decides it's time to retreat, but at that moment, they hear the screaming of Sasu villagers. The women and children of Sasu are being held captive and tortured. The battle is interrupted when suddenly a small Toi Barai force comes to the rescue. They start shooting arrows and slashing at the Mongol soldiers, pushing them back. This gives Jinzaburo and his men time to save the Sasu villagers. Before they depart, the commander of the Toi Barai forces, Nagamine Hangan, tells Jinzaburo that they're under orders from Japan. The Mongol commander, Lu Fuheng, decides to find and capture the fighter who killed one of their generals just days before. He moves fast and is ready for battle. The first person he finds is Anatake Maru himself. Their conflict is interrupted by Kuchi Jinzaburo, Lu's main target. The two start a duel, slashing each other on the cheek. Their speed is intense, and they seem to be evenly matched. But Jinzaburo needs to retreat for the sake of his men, and Lu is stopped by his men from chasing him any further. The invasion of Tsushima continues. Princess Tsuruhi and Jinzaburo both start their approach to the capital, but when they arrive, they realize the city has been destroyed. There are some surviving soldiers, but not many, with some hiding in the hills nearby. Before they can regroup, they're attacked by Mongol scouts. Tsuruhi, in a rage, fires several arrows at the Mongols. Suddenly, they see an even larger force approaching them, led by a Mongol commander, Uryan Ede. The survivors head to shelter. An old woman inspires several soldiers to fight alongside the exiles. While on the retreat, Jinzaburo remembers a strategic defense they could use. He recalls how during his time with the Hojo clan, he thought that the games of shogi and war were one and the same. It's always important to see the bigger picture. He tells the soldiers that the moment they lay down their sword, they'll lose. At that moment, a flurry of Mongol explosives attack the Tsushima force. The smoke is blinding and the Mongol warriors are fierce, but Jinzaburo and his forces are able to defeat them. With arrows, they repel the Mongol forces. The Mongol commander wanted to use hand cannons to defeat Jinzaburo. Tsuruhi and several others shot arrows but failed to damage the Mongol forces. Commander Aberu is shot and killed during the attack. At the same time, the Goryeo troops from Sasu are also approaching the battle. Jinzaburo sees this as a way of escape. The Mongols and Goryeo forces meet and start to fight over who gets more valuables. This allowed the Tsushima forces to escape north. As night approaches, Jinzaburo and Tsuruhi are introduced to an old man who is with the Toi Barai forces. Jinzaburo and the old man travel to the peak of Mount Shiratake, and it is there that they meet Emperor Ontoku. This is the first part of the recap of the anime Record of Mongol Invasion. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See y'all later, Otaku Gang!